Good morning. Welcome to Saturday Morning Coffee. My name is Lance Mckinnon, and I'm here with my guest, co-host, Tiffany Linderman. Good morning,
Good
Tiffany.
morning. Good
How are you?
morning. I'm good, thank you. I'm super excited that you brought this wonderful lady to meet all of us today. This is Sheri Pettoni, and she is a business development strategist and consultant, but most of all, a powerhouse. And so I'm excited because the next 30 some minutes, we're going to get to know her a little bit better. And honestly, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you, Tiffany.
Good morning.
Great.
Good morning, Sherry. How are you?
Hi, Lance. How are you? Good.
I'm wonderful. I don't know how much I'm going to talk. These allergies have got me, but you know me, I'll push through. But this is all about you, and I'm looking forward to hearing your great unfiltered story.
Well, it sounds good. Where would you guys like me to start?
Tell us what's been going on with you? I know that you've been in your career for so many years now, and being a power woman and working in a man's world, and just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I work in business development and marketing. I work in the construction industry, so I work around a lot of guys. And that's something that I was sort of used to. I grew up in a neighborhood where there were maybe 15 guys and 2 girls. So I was sort of groomed for working in that industry. And yeah, it's been great. So yeah, I really enjoy working with the guys, and but it's at times it can be kind of tough. You have to kind of put your foot down and earn respect. I can kind of walk into a meeting room and I'm 5'3", 120 pounds, and I might have a 6'2" linebacker guy next to me, and they're automatically going to go to the guy, and you sort of have to prove yourself, which makes it really it's almost like uh, something you have to aspire to get to earn their respect.
Hmm.
And I understand it because most for years it has been mostly men, and as females are coming into it, we just, instead of saying that I'm any type of victim of anything, I thought, what, I'm going to get in here, I'm going to earn their respect. I'm going to figure out how to talk to them. I'm going to figure out how to know their language. And so it's a little bit of homework. You got to get in there. You have to understand them. You have to understand their language, and you have to be able to communicate with them. And so that's what I do. I just take my time and figure out how to uh, work with them. And it doesn't take long before I get respect. And sometimes if they start saying different things, you just got to put it back in line.
And I'm sure you do pretty much.
Yeah, you gotta just throw it right back at them.
Yeah, but I know there's more to you, Sherry. You're being modest about what you do, but I know we were having a conversation earlier that I really wanted to get involved in. I think I stopped you prior to it, but about the inner and outer of knowing who you really are as a person.
Yeah, I grew up at a time where, in the 70s and 80s, and it was a great time to be a kid, but there was a lot of dysfunction around that time. And I grew up in a neighborhood, like I said, with a lot of guys. And in my teenage years, I had a lot of loss. So I think I was 13 and my grandmother passed away. And then a couple years later, or a year later, my stepfather got cancer. So we had to watch him go through that process. And then when I was 16, my grandfather died. When I was 17, my father passed away suddenly. And I sort of found myself on my own, and pretty shattered. And it was pretty difficult to pick myself back up. I had some friends, but my head just wasn't in the right space. And I went off to college. I moved to New Jersey with my grandmother. It was my dad's mom, and she let me work with her for the summer at the bank. And then I started my first semester in college, and I was not ready for it. I just, I just was going through the motions of sort of what society is expecting you to do, right? You go, okay, well, I signed up for college. I have to go to college. And so I went away, and I think I was really a good student in high school, and I think I got a 1.6 grade point average my first semester. I just was, I just was not, it was like my body and my mind were disconnected.
Yeah.
And my dad was really important to me. He was a powerhouse in my life. So after that, I realized I had to sit down and figure out, who am I? What do I want to become? And it's going to be a long climb because there's no support. There's really no support left. So you're going to have to find your own way and figure out what you want to do. And for me, I was lucky enough where I had this strong faith growing up. So I was able to pull from that faith and begin to pray and just begin to, ask, where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to be doing? And so I just started to quiet myself to kind of figure out what does God want me to do? Where am I supposed to be going? What feels right? What's my natural gifts, and where do I need to go? So from that point on, I said, I'm not drinking anymore. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just going to go focus on school. And I just went hell's blazing, I think, for the next maybe 5 to 10 years. And I took 5 classes. I had 3 jobs. I taught Sunday school. I did whatever it could to just get myself out of this rut that I was feeling and try to step into who I was meant to be. And so then a couple years later, I met a wonderful husband I'm still married to. And we had twins, and I crashed. I mean, I was going so hard, so fast, and I just sort of crashed, and I ended up getting Lyme disease, which in a way was a blessing in disguise because I had to slow down. I had to slow down really far. I had twins to take care of, and I was exhausted every single morning. And at that point, I was, taking regular medications for my joint pain and this and that. And I picked up a book by Dr. Andrew Weil about how the body can spontaneously heal. And I thought, wow, this is really interesting. And I read that whole book in such a short period of time. And I just kept reading and diving into spirituality and health, and what is it that keeps a healthy mind and a healthy body, and how can we become better people as we move along. So for the past 25 years, that's what I've been doing. I've been digging. No way am I perfect. I have many years ahead of me and many new lessons to learn. But I just hold my head high now, and I'm just extremely comfortable with who I've stepped into, knowing that any of these mistakes that I might be making in the future, it's okay. I'm fine. I just have to figure out as I go along what resonates with me, what feels right in my heart, and try not to go against what doesn't feel good to me, or try to go against what doesn't feel good to me, and continue to follow my own internal guidance on everything.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tiff.
I was just going to say, what does that look like? So you said you read the book to learn how you can naturally take care of yourself so your body can just regenerate and heal itself. And so what sort of changes in your life did you make from that?
Yeah, so one of the things that I learned was, physically speaking, there's the physical, right? And there's the energetic level. And you have to fix what's on the energetic level, which means I think Lance uses this phrase, you have the invisible backpack on your back, right?
Yeah.
I love that. I loved that phrase because that's exactly what it felt like. I had rocks just in my bag. Before my dad passed away, I had an argument with him, and I couldn't let that go. And I mean, it was eating me alive on the inside. So in a way, getting the Lyme disease got me to a point where I was able to feel the pain of my stress. And so I started to read more books about healing the mind and healing your past and coming to grips with these kinds of things. And it really does. It's this energetic level of the vibe that you give off. I mean, I had a tired vibe. I had twins. I was exhausted. People were talking to me. I was zoning out. I was still really upset, about of myself. I was beating myself up over my dad's death for such a long period of time.
Mhm.
And I had to get rid of those rocks in order to heal. That's energetic level. And I began to study the mind and how the spirit works and the subconscious and how that rules so much a part of you and you don't even know it. So I began to study that, but then also on the physical level, we also have to engage with what our body's going through and the foods that we put into it. So what's going into your mind and what's going into your body? Those are two extremely, really important things in life. And if you are conscious of the things that are going into your mind and your body, you start to get a little bit scared about what you're putting in there. Because, at least for me, because I had the Lyme disease, I felt that right away. If I was feeling upset about something, my joint pain would start back up or my heart would start racing a little bit. And so through the years, I just continued to keep growing. And then at one point, I just realized I don't have any symptoms anymore. I really don't. And I said, and it wasn't overnight and it wasn't a magic pill. It was work. It was internal work. And it was believing in yourself that you could and can step into something that is pulling you. You're meant to be there.
Mhm.
So yeah, so it's been quite a journey for me, but I would love my next chapter in my life. I'm looking for ways to get into that and be able to help other people um, pull out their greatness because
Yeah.
everybody has it. We might have invisible backpacks and there's rocks back there, but you don't have to carry them and
Absolutely.
you don't have to own them.
I've often said, and I know it's in a book, is that battles are won and lost in between 6 inches. Uh,
Yes.
and that is so true. And,
Yeah.
and some people who haven't read that book, I recommend reading that book, Battles Were Won and Lost Between 6 inches. But it's
Yeah.
called Battlefield of the Mind, actually.
Yes.
I think Joyce Myers wrote it.
Joyce Meyer.
Yes, many, many years ago, because I too, you have those things. Once your mind starts wandering, it's hard to bring it back.
It
And
really is. It causes, and it's almost an epidemic, the anxiety and depression. It's almost an epidemic today. And what does that tell us? It probably tells us we're not living authentically. And a lot of us are putting on an outward face that is really detrimental to your mind and your body by just trying to live everybody else's expectations. So it was funny because I came across a quote and I wrote it down for today. I saw something yesterday on, I think it was Instagram, and it says, everyone tells you what to do and what's good for you. They don't want you to find your own answers. They want you to believe theirs. Socrates. So the truth is, it's beautiful. And the truth is, nobody knows what's inside your heart. That's between you and God.
yeah,
You have to honor that, what's inside of you, in order to make an impact on the world. So non-resistance is one of the biggest contributors to your health. Resistance leads to unhealthy bodies and unhealthy minds.
that was a very powerful uh, paraphrase. That I think we're going to have to use that again. I'm going to have to look that one up, but that was very powerful because I know, especially after coming off of this past year, you know, so many people have been impacted in so
Yes.
many different ways. And I know we've had previous guests on here, and I've said, if you're telling me that you have not been some kind of financially, emotionally, physically impacted over this past year,
Yes.
uh, I don't think we need to have a conversation. Because it's going to be, as I said earlier, it's going to be that surfacey barbecue sauce.
Barbecue sauce.
It is.
I also
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask a question. I think that all you, what your points you're making are so valid. And I think that the interesting thing, as you talk about yourself as a business development strategist, very much in leadership every day, I have two thoughts when it comes to, you really do need to be real as a human being. But at the same time, you also need to be an influence of positivity, et cetera. And I feel like then we easily just put up this where we put on the barbecue sauce, as Lance would say. But how do you try to approach your job and leadership with your team when it comes to those things and trying to be real and let yourself be human?
I mean, I've been known to be radically candid. They said you have like radical candor. And I'm like, well, if we don't get to the bottom of it, and it's one thing I think I realized, and that's actually the name of my company is Interact.
Okay.
Instead of interact, it's interact. And I did that because that was close to my heart, because we have to act authentically from the inner self, and then the outer self kind of shines. Sometimes I'm known to flash fire a little bit sometimes, but as I was doing in this healing work and healing myself, I see very quickly into like the pit of the problem. So I kind of can work past all these superficial layers of things that we're not going to move forward unless we get to the issue, unless we get to the heart of the issue, literally. So that's how I deal with my clients. So if I see an issue, it's like, okay, guys, this is what we have to change. If we're not going to change this, this outside thing isn't going to change. So we need to look at it objectively, and we need to sit down, strategize over where the main issues are, and we need to put the ego aside. Ego can get us into a whole lot of trouble because we want to be validated for the things that we do. And if we can just put aside the ego, then we can look at the situation objectively, get to the heart of the problem, and get in there and kind of scrape it out. And then all of a sudden, it begins to flow. So, so that's kind of how I work with my clients, and just being honest. We have a manufacturing issue with one of our products, so we have to watch how we're going to be marketing it because it might be slowing down. So, hey guys, we got to get this manufacturing issue straightened out, or I can't go out and my marketing work is dependent on all the back work that we do back here. This isn't departments and silos within the company. All of it flows together to develop a healthy company. So, so I take some of the business development and the marketing, and we might go back to operations or back to finance or back to whatever department to look and say, hey, how are we going to work together to solve this problem? And we're not going to yell. We're not going to finger point. We're just literally, we're all on the same team. So let's talk it out. We might have disagreements, but that's okay. We can come to compromises. We're all big people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just more about pulling, and then also pulling out the greatness inside of your clients and inside their brains. And it's such a beautiful thing to do. Entrepreneurs are like my favorite because they tend to be all over the place, but they are incredibly creative and incredibly intelligent. So I love kind of getting inside there and then taking those pieces and putting them in order where we can just pull out the greatness and help them execute it. So.
Sure, you hit on a very great point. Change.
Yes.
And I always refer, one of the books that I always hand out is Who Moved My Cheese?
Yes.
By Spencer Johnson. Because it's a very simple read, but it's a very powerful read. And I know that in this world and working in corporate America or whatever we're doing, personally, professionally, change is one of the hardest things for people to do because they can say, hey, it's worked for the last 15 years.
Yes.
Just because it worked for the last 15 years, it doesn't mean it's going to work for the next 15 years. So I usually drop that book and we're like, so tell me which character you are in this book, because that really when people see it for themselves, I think it starts to resonate in their mind like, oh, I need to change some of my ways in order to grow.
That's very true. And that's a great book. And I actually was thinking about writing a book. I like the word pivot better than change,
Yeah.
because change feels like you're not doing it right. Pivoting to me feels like you just have to bend a little bit, turn it in a different direction a little bit. And we're not asking you to change everything. We're just asking you to pivot in certain ways because there's opportunities out there we might not see. And that's one of the favorite part of my jobs. Hey, maybe there's an audience out there we haven't seen, that you didn't think of before. Did you think of exploring that? And oh, there's kind of like that resistance, like, well, we didn't, we're not ready for that. Well, we want to pivot. We want to stay ahead of the curve. We want to be relevant all the time. And buyer behaviors are constantly changing. So let's just take a look at that and just make a few pivots. And a lot of times that will soften the conversation.
Mhm.
Because if I ask you to change, then that means to some people, it may appear as though I'm saying you aren't doing this right. And that's not the case. They've been doing these amazing things for a long period of time. It's just time to turn the wheel a little bit and go down another road, and it's a better road. So
When are
yeah.
you writing your own book? Because I'm ready to buy it. Bring out the greatness, pivot. I'm sold.
I was hoping to get a copy for free, but you can buy it. I was hoping to get a copy for free. No, but no, and I think the word pivot is very instrumental because
Yeah.
especially coming off this past 16, 17 months, I think we all need to pivot in
Yes.
some sort of way. People say the ways of old, the normal. Every day is a new normal. So
Yeah.
pivoting is a great term because every day we're starting off new.
And what a great gift. What
Yes,
an incredible gift to wake up every day and say, it's a new time for me to pivot or move or do something to get out of where I am.
yes.
So you just have to, again, jump into that mindset and things start to flow. It's this resistance of, the last year has been very difficult for a lot of people. And I went through that difficulty when I first got Lyme. It stopped me hard, but I was going 90 miles an hour and not really, I don't even think I was engaged in the moment many times during my day. I was always ahead, planning and jumping. And it hit me hard. My life just kind of like stopped. And it slowed me down to a point where at first it felt like this was the most awful thing in the world and poor me and and you start getting into the victim mode. And as I don't know, just something over time just grabbed me and I thought, you know what? If I victimize myself the rest of my life, I'm not going to move forward. And if I keep the resistance in my subconscious, then my body's going to resist. And that tension, right? When you resist, what happens? You create tension. Well, what do you think you're doing to your body when your brain is constantly in resistance? So you're breaking the flow of life, and you want to continue moving forward, even if it's just an inch at a time. So sometimes we don't need to change the world all at once. Some of us are meant to, and some of us are just meant to have these, like Tiffany said, these small changes that really can help other people. And sometimes those small changes can just be you just not letting that negativity in.
Mhm.
And we see a lot of that fighting, today, but I think when you respond differently, your life goes differently. And so that which you absorb and that which you decide to take in, you're going to create yourself. So it's just being really conscious of those thoughts that are coming in.
That's fabulous. What advice would you give women empowerment today that have dreams and passion that are just sitting on them and not acting on them? because I know that you have a lot of passion about a lot of things and you act on every single one of them. What advice would you give to other women or men for that matter that are creating ideas that are just sitting on their desk? What would you say to them?
Don't be afraid. I mean, one of my favorite sayings is, everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear. Fear is extremely, extremely powerful. And we've seen that tool being used this year to create fear. And that bothers me because our quality of our life is not the best when we're sitting in fear. But it was so funny. I literally printed out some stuff, my favorite quotes, and I was hoping to kind of get to this. But there's a couple quotes that I think are really interesting. This is from Buddha, which says, suffering is not holding you, you are holding suffering. So you want to move, if a woman wants to be empowered and move, or a man wants to move forward, it says, give yourself permission to live a big life. Step into who you are meant to be. Stop playing small. You are meant for greater things. Fear will just stop you. So now how do you get past fear? It's just a little bit each day, beginning to believe in yourself. Take in the right, stop looking at the news and start taking in good quality books, good quality videos that are all over YouTube, these free tools we have all over the place right now that we can use. So be very conscious of what you're pulling into your world. And when fear comes, I know I used to work with someone and I had these little sticky notes, and I would put the word stop like on 50 of them, and I would put them on my mirror, or put them on here, or put them on there. And whenever I started getting into that, what we call automatic negative thinking, it was just stop. I was like, oh, and I didn't have to do anything with it. I just knew that I was like, I got to stop that brain from going into that. So giving yourself time, not being afraid, and slowly being able to work with yourself to pull out of it.
Yeah, and I equivalent fear with worry, because a lot of people worry what is somebody going to say, and it's kind of the equivalent of fear, which holds people back from actually stepping into what they want to be able to do. I always say that you can't serve two gods.
Yes.
You know, either you're going to step out in faith, or you're going to worry and just sit back and let things happen to you. And so that's one of my biggest mottos too. And I think you hit on something that I say often. I know it's in the Bible. I tell you the thing all the time is iron sharpens iron. And you kind of brought that up about what you're reading, who you're associating with. You know, you always want to make sure that you're associating with others that are going to lift you up. Has the same kind of positive mindset that you do. Grab the coattails of somebody who's doing something that you want to do and go with it.
And if you're confident in yourself, you just start attracting different people and different things come into your life. But you know, Lance, that's not really, in all honesty, it's not really easy for a lot of people.
No, it's not.
Because they have been beaten down, and I don't want to victimize those people because they have the glory of God and the power within themselves to pull it out. What I had to realize in myself was that like I said before, it's between God and I. Only I know what's in my heart. Nobody can tell you what you're meant to be or what you're meant to do. You feel it. And everybody here, everybody that's sent here has a gift to give the world.
Yes.
And so being able to just recognize that you have that gift, slowing down and saying to yourself, what are those gifts? And you know them, you feel them, you think you don't, but they're very subtle. It's sort of like when you run into somebody and they say something you don't like. It's kind of that is like a clue, a little clue for you that says that's not what I am, and you begin to define yourself. So yeah, I mean, you just have to. It could take some time, but why? It's worth it. You know, if a year from now you're a year better than you were the year before, why not? Keep practicing it every single day. And I slip up all the time. with my kids, with my husband, with my clients, good days, bad days. But the important thing is I catch myself after a while and I say, gosh, that was not authentically me.
Mhm.
Ego talking, or that was, just I was grumpy today. But I always try to come back at night to either read something positive or read something spiritual for me and find a way to work through that space.
Yeah, I think you and I are a lot alike because there are a lot of bad days, but at the end of the day, I try to find that one little nugget that I
Yeah.
did right. That one little nugget. I'll be like, all right, you did this good today. All right, so let's build on that. Despite all the thousand other things that might have gone wrong, but
Yeah.
that one little nugget, hey, that's the one I'm going to focus on. And tomorrow we'll put a second one on top, or a third one, and just
It
keep
was
building.
exactly. Well, it was so funny. In maybe about 15, 20 years ago, I also was working with some people that could, help me through it, some spiritual leaders and stuff like that. And I was on the phone with somebody and I said, I just don't know where to start. How, I feel so weighed down. Where do I even go? How do I get through this? And they said, huh, interesting. Listen to the song going on in the background as you're asking me that question because it's giving you an answer. And you know what it was? It was Frosty. Just put one foot in front of the other. And I was like, And he said, everything around you is giving you clues about what you need to do as well.
Yeah,
So there's things around you that are meant for you to hear or see that you're attracting. And that was something that I needed to hear. And I literally sometimes sing that in my head sometimes, just put one foot in front of the other. And that's all you have to do when you're afraid. So if you need emboldened or empowered, just do something. If you want to do a podcast, practice for 30 days to 90 days, just listening to your voice. What do you want to change? What content would I want to have? You don't have to do it tomorrow. You just have to just go forward. Just take a step.
absolutely. I just picked up a good book called "Don't Drop the Mic" by
Uh,
Bill Jakes, and I have not been able to put it down because it's such a powerful book about using your voice and not being afraid and modeling yourself after who you are
yeah.
and not somebody else. Be yourself. And that's one of the things I think we enjoy Saturday morning coffee is because we walk around pretending to be somebody that we're not.
Yes.
And this gives us an open forum of just talking and laughing and joking and being original. And I think we really need to go back as a society of just really having real conversations and asking people, hey, how are you today? Are you okay today? What can I
Yes.
do for you today? Because there's a lot of people out there that are hurting.
Yeah.
And and they're wearing that invisible mask, and I think that's really important. And so for me, that's what I do, and you are doing it well, very much so yourself, Sheri.
Yeah. I mean, you have to, and I would say, imagine what it would like to feel free, right? When you finally step into yourself, and you get rid of that resistance and that stress and that tension, you feel so much more free. And I think that that's what everybody wants to feel. We kind of plug the hole a lot, right? We put a stopper in the bottom of the sink and we let things well up and just let them take the stopper off and let it go.
Yep.
And you in turn will then spread it to somebody else and spread it to somebody else. And we aren't perfect and we're still going to have bad days, but at least every day you can say to yourself, am I putting the stopper in because I want to feel free? I want to get this stress off. I'm tired of feeling this way and I just want to feel free.
That's absolutely wonderful, Sheri. And you know what? It's Saturday morning, and I know that you got a lot of things going on, and
Yep.
we could probably talk forever. But that was a perfect. I think no better way to kind of bring it into the segment. And Sheri, I thank you personally for taking time out of your busy day.
Oh, you're welcome.
Enjoy
Yes.
the sunshine, to be on Saturday morning coffee, and
Thank you.
keep making a difference in people's lives today and every single day. Tiffany, any final words?
No, I just want to say I absolutely love that you're really saying the change comes within who we are, because the world around us is going to be changing. And we need to pivot ourselves internally, and we also need to own who we are. All of our imperfections and our perfections, all of it is beautiful, and we have to be comfortable with ourselves, and that's the key to being free. I absolutely love it. And you've truly inspired me. So I can't wait to talk to you again. So you're a friend of mine forever. But thank you so much for taking the time today, Sheri. I really appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you, Sheri.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.